We're live. We're live, Brendan.
I feel alive.
It's exciting. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming, especially during this time of season. It's busy, but we love having you here. We've got some exciting stuff to talk about yearbooks. So here, Christian Perry, Capturo. I'm the project manager for yearbooks, and been doing school photos since about 1999. Long time ago. Was one of the first on the team of creating Captura yearbooks, known as Clickbooks back in the day. And couldn't have done it without our guest today, Brendan Collopy from Strawbridge Studios, who was hugely instrumental in bringing the yearbook software to fruition. So here's Brendan.
Yep. Hey, it's good to see everybody. Glad you guys are here. Hope we're going to learn a lot today. Yeah, man, I've been in the industry for 18 years, working with Strawbridge for all of it. And, some of my best memories, best times, and definitely most profitable times have been when working with PhotoLinks and Christian and the gang over there back in the day to make the Clickbook software. And now we've kind of returned for a second run at it, and we're doing this Captura yearbooks thing. I figured rebrand. Might as well try it all over again, do it all over again. And they're great partners to work with. And we've got some exciting stuff coming at you today. Thank you.
Yeah. And what we're going to cover is, yearbooks are more than just keepsakes. They're memories, and you can actually make money off of them. I think yearbooks should no longer be the red-headed stepchild of that side of the business. And I think that some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today will help bring that to fruition. And, the goal is to make yearbooks profitable. So we'll kind of talk about how we're going to go today. We'll have anybody can submit their questions. Just go in a chat, ask the questions, and at the end of the stream, we'll do a Q&A. And then we'll also have some interactivity with polls. And speaking of polls, we're going to bring up our first one to get us started today. Okay, so this is kind of a good idea to see where you're at. What percentage of current revenue comes from yearbooks? So do you even offer yearbooks? Go through those. And while you're answering those, we're going to go ahead and come up and start talking about, that kind of thing, right? So one of the things that we've done is, those of you that are familiar with the SPOA, School of Photographers of America, we did a school photography industry report, and we do that every year. We've been able to get a lot of information from, our audience, our customers, the parents, the schools, and a bunch of that stuff has been very enlightening. We've been able to see, okay, you can project, but until you get that actual data back is where it's super important. We've noticed that, we've had studios grow their revenue by 30%. With yearbooks when offering the e-commerce with yearbooks attached to them. Studios see 10% increase in revenue from selling ads in commerce. Now, in Captura yearbooks, for instance, we have a built-in shopping cart. You don't need to go outside of the software, which is nice. You're not importing, you're not exporting, and it can be personalized per school. Brendan, did you have anything to offer on
of course.
Side of that?
Yeah, of course. I'm holding myself back the entire time. Yearbooks is not as large of a percentage of our revenue as we'd like. It's about 10%, 10%, 11%. But it is fast growing. Like it is where we have the most leaps and bounds year over year. So especially even if you're already doing books, I think you can pick books up a lot quicker. And for the margins on what it does, especially if you're going to work with an operation like Captura Direct, you're going to save money on licensing. You're going to save money on your printing and stuff if you got to outsource it. So those things can make the margins on it very appealing because you don't have to do a lot of work. You do some service, which as a photographer you're already really good at. That's your lifeblood, is going in and giving good service. So even if you're looking at it and saying, well, I'm only going to make like 5 or 10% more, it goes a long way, and it's good to get in now and start building it. Because I'll tell you, over I've been doing the yearbook stuff for probably about a dozen years, 13, 14 years of my career. And I've seen it take off. I've seen it be very lucrative.
Yeah. And thanks for mentioning the Captura Direct. And that's That's an offer that we're working with through Capture Yearbooks. You can now print as well and give you great offers on that. And again, save you some money there and increase your margins. So let's see what that poll looks like. We're going to bring that up and see what kind of results we got. Okay. Wow. 14% that don't offer yearbooks right now. Okay. 43%. Good. Okay. Well, that's pretty good as far as percentages. What do you think Strawbridge does on that side of things?
Oh, we're 11% of our revenue.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're 11%. I mean, we do almost several thousand yearbooks, but we're just large, so it's 11%. But I mean, we've probably got a dozen sales reps, and I've got a great pre-press staff of about 7 or 8 designers and yearbook quality assurance people and support people doing the Plickbook software with our customers. And I've got a great team of guys and gals in the back working a couple shifts to make sure that those books go out right. So it's not a small part of our operation at all. It is. There's quite a lot of involvement in it.
Well, I remember back in the day when you didn't have that team, you just had Brendan back there, right? Yeah. And you had one person and you just had to rely on the salespeople and didn't have that communication back then. And that's kind of one of the things that we're going to talk about next here. Yeah. Is what that looks like. With the yearbook side of things. So why do schools stop offering or don't even offer yearbooks? And we'll go ahead and put that slide up. And you talked about the barriers, and this could be the schools or the studio for that matter. Barriers such as lack of staff, people that don't understand yearbooks or don't want to get into yearbooks, the perceived cost of yearbooks. And Brendan, I think you mentioned that too, where there are ways to bring the studio cost down quite a bit. And then the lack of technical know-how, or tools designed for the schools. And, as far as Capture a Yearbook side of things goes, we've designed the software to be a scalable user interface. So we can take the schools that just want a small yearbook to throw together in 15, 20 minutes without having to have knowledgeable staff. But it scales to the point where you can have a full school class around yearbooks. So that's one of the things nice about the software. What can you tell me about the staff side of things that are keeping schools from doing the yearbooks? Did we lose Brendan?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I wasn't sure if that's
for today.
I thought maybe we're doing another poll. I'm sorry. Long nights.
Just listening to my radio voice and going,
yeah. What stops people from doing yearbooks? Oh boy. I think the main things is time, is finding a good person and the time it takes to do it. A lot of schools will put it on a person who's either a first year, fresh out of college, going into an elementary school, and they're like, oh, we'll make the new girl do it, So I think that like having a passionate person do it is one big stopper. But what that all really boils down to is the ease of use, is how easy it is. Like what we've battled time and time again, like our first hurdle was overcoming quality, but our second big hurdle was making it easier and easier and easier. The softwares back in the early 2000s that were used for yearbooks were very curmudgeon-y, and they were kind of like imitations of paste up boards and the way you would do it if you were still physically doing it. They hadn't taken advantage of technology like they have now. And so the biggest thing is to just make it easy, is to make it streamlined, to make it so yearbook advisors can track their own things. And any question that you would be answering, they can look up themselves. When are things due? How does this tool work? And the key to that is just is intuitive, is having intuitive software, is having a good process, even up to the point of print, even up to being able to know, that you've got someone that you can rely upon, you can send printing to, someone that knowing that you've got a whole package plan and giving them confidence gives yearbook advisors that aren't great yearbook advisors the ability to do it. Like, we should really be using technology as much as possible to our advantage to try and get it so yearbook advisors are willing to do it, and it makes it easy on them.
Yeah,
I've rambled that one a little bit.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I agree 100% as a technology person. There are definitely ways we can make it easier. One-stop shop comes to mind. You've got a dashboard. You don't have to go outside for your e-com. You don't have to go outside for getting candids in, things like that. I think that goes a long way. And just, the training of the staff, even if it's the simple things of understanding yearbook timelines and what it takes to actually do a yearbook, makes a lot of sense. So let's go on to the next one. We'll go to the next slide, and we're going to talk about, what you said earlier too was cost, right? Cost of inaction versus revenue opportunities. So some of the things here, even small increases in personalization can help, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And it does make a big difference. So let's go back to some numbers, and let's say you're photographing a school with 400 students. Okay, 25% of families buy a yearbook at $20, right? That's $2,000 right there. You add name personalization as an upsell for $5 for 50%, and now you're looking at an extra 250 on top of that. Maybe let's talk about digital versions. And this is the interesting thing with digital yearbooks, and I'd love to hear from the people out there, their opinions on digital yearbooks. But let's say you add a digital version for 50% of those buyers to buy. It's another $375. So now for a single school of 400 students, you're looking at $2,625 revenue coming off of that book. Now you multiply that by however many schools you do, and now you're talking about increasing that revenue percentage for your business. Okay, it doesn't take a lot. We've also found that 61% of parents who want personalizations, that's a lot. I spoke to a studio that does quite a bit of yearbooks, and they have a great way. One of the first things he talked about was personalization is a big thing for them, a big upsell. In fact, he's got it in the cart set up for an opt-out situation where they add a yearbook and it adds personalization automatically, and they have to take it off. I think that's a pretty cool way of doing it. Add it there. What do you feel about the personalization side of things, and how has that been beneficial for the Strawbridge side of things, and how long has it taken to get there?
Oh my gosh, I used to hate it.
Right.
We'll talk more about that later. I'll skip that part for now.
Okay. Yeah.
Personalization, the thing about personalization is that's where your margin is. Let's be candid. I'll be candid, and I'll probably get myself in trouble, especially if you talk to other printers. There's no cost to personalization.
That's right.
When done,
we might get in trouble now.
Yeah, of course. When done right, it's very smooth. It's very streamlined. I mean, like, there's ink costs and there's quality control costs. I shouldn't say that because we do make money off of it. But it's one of those areas that's got a large margin off of it. It's just one of those spots where parents are willing to pay for that niche, unique, special thing on the cover, the personalization, the picture, even sometimes the name. We do over 50 accounts do just name, and they're willing to spend more on it because it makes the book more personalized. It pops, it gives it more feel. And so you've got an opportunity there where, like you just saw with the maths, you can charge almost 25% of what the book already costs. It's like so every 4 people you can sell personalization to, you make a whole nother book for none of the material costs, So yeah, the biggest drawbacks, as I mentioned before, both in the vein of why printers have to charge more for it and how difficult it can be is that quality control, is making sure that it goes right, that it's organized in alphabetical order in a separate box and not strewn all over the place and stuff. Those are the biggest challenges you face when you're dealing with personalization and quality issues like that. But it's worth it once you get it down. Once you really learn how to do it and receive it, it's worth it. And I know that with the ClickBooks software, I know we've got a beautiful translation system. We used to struggle so much sending spreadsheets back and forth and PDFs and stuff. And I think at one point we even made like a web page we were trying to use. But now that it's all in one place, it all comes down real easy and makes it so smooth.
Yeah. I think the automation will help that cost initiative as well. Try to get that down. You mentioned with Capture Yearbooks that the personalization is built in the cart and it just flows through. So there's not a ton of work that has to be done, in the past. And I get, a lot of that stuff comes up is how much better we've come with automation in this business. We just have to, fill the gaps and say, okay, we've we've got the automation, things are a lot more smooth, but we need to figure out more ways to bring in the revenue. Okay, time for our next poll. Do you offer personalization on your cover and your yearbooks? What does that look like? And we'll come back to that. So, I mean, even a small increase in adoption can, that's going to translate to thousands of dollars potentially. You know, and the risk isn't just stagnation; it's losing ground to competitors who make yearbooks easy. Strawbridge Studios is a really good example of that, and they've come a long way and making it easier to do. Your personalization is a big thing, and this was one of the things that we can definitely prove to you based on the numbers coming in. It's a big deal, right? So let's bring up that poll results here and see what we've got. So if buddy hasn't finished, finish up now as fast as you can. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's pretty big, for all schools. That's good. And this is for offering personalization. I wonder what those numbers look like for the actual purchase side of things. And that again brings up what we're doing with the school photography industry report. Is we're getting those numbers, and this is be a good opportunity to plug it too for those that are interested in participating and get your studio and your customers on there. Let us know. Okay. Let us know that you want to contribute to the school photography industry report, because it's important for all of us and this industry. All right. So let's bring in our next slide, the high revenue yearbook formula. Timing and planning. Wow. Yeah. Timing and planning that sure is a big deal. And Brendan, you talked about the staff starting out with just a couple. We found from other studios that understanding your staff's understanding of the yearbook deadlines and milestones timeline, what happens in the yearbook from August to September, October to November? Are we, we're talking yearbook team kickoff, and how important is that to make sure that you understand the timelines moving forward with the yearbooks?
Yeah, there's a misnomer. I love this question because there's a misnomer out there that yearbooks only occurs for like a 2-month period during the year.
Yeah. Right.
Just like football, the most exciting part of the game is the last 2 minutes usually, but there is the rest of the game to be played, and a lot of that happens in August through December through even January. You have several things going on that are of high importance. One is going to be getting your images and the pictures you've taken into the software and out to the teachers and the yearbook advisors, making sure that they know they're there, making sure that they can review them. You want to give them enough time to review them. You really want to push and make sure you don't have any reprint situations that, even if it's not your fault, you've got to eat kind of thing. So we always try to make sure that we're doing those images as quickly as possible, and that our sales reps and our support staff are pushing people to review them and make sure they're all right. The other thing you're doing is most schools at this point in time, and if you haven't trained them to do this yet, they need to be doing their pre-sale now before you even have anything. I believe some of your best schools and some of your best sellers, I know because I look at the numbers, but I really firmly believe that even if you don't have anything to show off, a flyer, a sign during some of the opening events in August and September, promoting it as much as possible, promoting it at picture day if you can. Like, these are things that make it so like your sale time is expansive, and so you've got to get out there and you've got to be selling it. And it's I don't know how many of you guys sign books up still in the fall, but we are still signing up contracts right now. There's a tremendous amount of people usually wait to the last minute. You know how it is to change over, and so you've got a lot of yearbook advisors that probably get into September and they're like, I'm supposed to be doing something right now, and oh shoot, and they didn't like their last provider. They used someone that either fell short on the printing end or could not, or it was a frustrating process. So those are the things you got to work on. And from your end, you've got to make sure that you're giving support. You've got tutorials going on. Our reps do a lot of webinars where they'll host 20 people at a time, and they'll start a group chat on the Facebooks and stuff like
Right.
that. So
Yeah, that is super important. The timing, and the education, just understanding of, when things happen. I mean, you've got a ton of time. You think, you start in August, September, and school photos come in, but then we've got candidates that are being taken all year long. So we got to have a really good way of managing that. Of course, I'm going to plug Capture Yearbooks again and talk about the way that candidates come in so easily. You can link it externally, you can create events, and as those candidates come in, we use facial recognition to drop those and match them up to the subject photos. And then you can create your index pages, right? So all those things that happen during those timelines, it's the sooner you can get started and make that plan, the better, for sure. So let's bring up our next poll. So let's find out how you're doing out there. When do you typically start your yearbook projects? And let's be honest here. We're trying to, this is for posterity, right? Yeah, for sure. It's a big deal. Okay. The earlier start, better content collection, more time for sales campaigns. One of the things I'd like to point out too is if you are using Capture Workflow, for instance, you can leverage the marketing campaigns for yearbooks as well. So you can talk to your marketing specialist. They can put the yearbook shopping cart right in your standard campaigns and push it out there. Makes a huge difference. Talk about getting those flyers out. Talk about getting those posters, the yard signs. All those kinds of things will help early to make sure that you can get a good start. Let's bring up that poll and see some of these results. Okay. Yeah. August, October. Yep. I can see that. November, March or later. I'm curious about the March or later, if that's just late books or if it's, maybe we've got sports books, maybe something like that. Brendan?
we signed up over 75 books after March this season. Once
Wow.
we hit March, Elliot and I were watching, and we were trying to see if we'd break 100, because that would have been kind of entertaining.
In that time frame? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, especially if you're only dealing with like a 5 or 10. I mean, what I would assume is happening there a lot of the times is that, yeah, either there's been some maximum procrastination, or provider has really failed to deliver on what they promised, and the advisor's gotten frustrated and switched, or maybe the advisor's not done her job at the school and stuff, and had to switch out. And so you do have a lot of people that are doing books at that time. And I think that if you have the agility to, if you know a good printer, and you're okay with it, and you're in school pictures, and you've kind of got a dozen yearbook accounts, and you feel like you can do them from then to then just all at once, that can work. I would feel like it's a gamble. I would be nervous, because I know that printing can get behind in certain areas, but there are plenty of different folks that do print out there that could print a yearbook and may not be busy at that time. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not unnatural to see business pop back up in March, April, and even May. We signed 12 in May and did them in like a week.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I saw some summer books come through this year as well. So
Oh yeah, we do almost 140, 150 summer and fall books.
yeah.
That's becoming more and more common. Summer books, back in the day, it was just the slackers that couldn't get it done. But now with your year-round schools and everything that's going on, you're seeing more and more of that, and that's great. It's puts work on the press when my people don't have a lot. We're cutting hours and laying off, and it's great work to have. Makes it so the quality is really good. It comes real fast. It's
Mhm.
good.
So we talked about the printing side of things, and the actual tangible prints themselves. What about digital? What about like maybe a hybrid? Let's say we do a printed book, and then we offer digitals. We're seeing that digital options are gaining traction. Is that something that you're seeing at Strawbridge?
We have tried digital options a couple times. We
Mhm.
we have we have forayed into it in one form or another. PDFs. We tried that app once. Many years. I haven't seen it since many years ago. We tried the app. Um, our biggest problem there for our organization is reaching the customer with it, and getting the customer to
Right.
know what it is. Um, but we keep trying. Like that to me and to our organization is one of those things that's an inevitability. Like just like, the envelope gave way to the email and the email is giving way to the text message right now. Like that has to happen with the yearbook eventually. Like I think the print will always be important and needed for a yearbook because of the strength of its traditions. But I think the digital, if you do it right, like, and you do it as a low economic offer for people that just can't afford a $20 book, because we all know prices of physical things are going to go up and there will still be people to pay
100%.
them, but there is money to be had there. And we've been trying to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
have not, I have not touched base on what we've done with that for a while. We've been booking so much and focused on our printing so much that we haven't circled back around to that.
and the focus on the printing, I think, is
Huge.
100% justified, right? And we are seeing that data coming from the parents that they still, over everything else, they want that tangible print in their hands. However, they would like the option for digital, which the digital editions could open up, alumni or distant family sales, those kinds of things. But that print for sure is one of those things that's got to be in those people's hands. So
Yeah.
let's go to the next slide, and let's talk about content and engagement. Again, we talked about hitting that personalization. 61% of parents want personalization, right? A direct revenue lift with minimal, labor involved, right? Easy win, should be an easy win. Um, you know, we're doing things on the Captura side of things. We're going to add a feature in the shopping cart for this year to add personalization by default. We talked about it so that when you add a yearbook, you've got an option in the cart to automatically add personalization so that the customer has to opt out of it. That should be a big lift. So we're doing things on our end. More candids. We talked a little bit, about how easy it is to get candids in there. I'm curious about candids and how that really affects. And I want to get your feedback on that, Brendan, with candidates themselves, and does it add more student involvement?
Yeah, it definitely promotes it at the school. The trick about candidates is to make sure that you're not sending your own photographer in there to take them. Um, you know, so a lot of the times, with digital technology today, especially, at the very least, if the yearbook advisor goes in and interrupts every class and takes some candidates for a quick couple minutes, the kids get excited. They got, class got interrupted. Everybody laughed and smiled, with their friends and stuff. So they go home and talk about it to mom and reminds mom. It's good advertising, you get the kids excited about it. As far as the depth of the book, I mean, the thing is that if you're dealing with an economics school, a school that's kind of low economic and stuff, and they just want to make a book that everybody will remember everybody and they can sign and have a good day, then candidates don't really matter. They're going to be making a thin book and just going for it, and that's fine. It has its place. Try to get them the best price you can, and still make a little bit of money, But when you're talking about the big runs that have a lot of a lot of pages and sell more, you want that. You do want, candidates from a capitalistic standpoint are good because they thicken the book. They make it so you're
That's right.
charging more sheets and you've got a higher page count, and so the price of the book goes up. And so you want to encourage them to do that as well, because now you not only raise, you can advertise a little bit and raise your percentage of order, but you can also raise your order average value.
Right. Yeah, and
By
the
doing that.
quality of the phones nowadays, for instance, and that's majority where candidates are going to come from.
Right.
The quality is outstanding, right, compared to what it used to be. So, you're keeping the quality of the book throughout, which is very important. And then making the bundling yearbooks with portrait packages. That's pretty big. And I mentioned before about doing the include your yearbook shopping cart in your campaigns. Make sure that your yearbooks go out with those campaigns, or create a campaign that just is yearbooks alone, right? Those things, getting out of it as soon as possible, that makes a huge difference, and I think will increase your AOV. Brendan, what I wanted to do next was let's talk about, just take a couple minutes here before we leave, and let's do I don't know, your little case study, right?
Yeah.
How did Strawbridge start with yearbooks, and where are you at today? And
I'm warming up, Christian. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I think if Emily and Ann are watching, they need to start a stopwatch, because I could go on forever. Someone's gonna have to stop.
I'll poke you.
All right, thanks, buddies. Real quick, through and through, what I wanted to say when I thought about this part of the presentation was just as succinctly as I can. When I first came on board, Strawbridge Studios has been doing yearbooks for about 30 or 40 years. We've been doing it since the 70s. Is that 50 years? Oh, it's been a long time. We've been doing it. We were doing it on Heidelbergs. We're doing it on offset presses. When I came on board about 20 years ago, we still had 2 big Heidelbergs and like 1 little Indigo, and we actually had a bunch of Ryobis and a Cougar. We had like a single. We were still selling black and white books. We were still selling black and white books and stuff like that. And so, our goal was to put as many softbacks on those presses, softback saddle stitch books. And we were saddle stitching them too. I had a Mueller Martini, and we were still saddle stitching them. Wow. And, we maxed out, like, we were keeping overruns. We were keeping, like, you make like 50 overruns with runs like that. And we were keeping them, and we were having to use them half the time to make up for books that had ink smears, and to make up for things that we fell short on and stuff like that. So, it was just crazy. It was crazy. And we've evolved over the years. Like, eventually we were also just still doing paste up. We were still having people send things in. They were sending pictures in envelopes. It's into 60 envelopes with pictures in it. And every 2 years, we would make a huge step in evolution. We got onto a digital software, my first couple of years over it. And then we finally got onto online. And then we evolved our online, Pixami to Plickbooks. Christian and I, as I mentioned before, great experience. And pretty much we started we called it our wheelhouse. We were shunning perfect bounds and hardbacks, which have great margins on them with the binding and stuff like that. So you want to do them. We were afraid to death of personalization, because we didn't have the capabilities to do it. But once we kind of hit the technological jump, once we got the Plick books in place, and the right staff in place supporting everybody, those 2 things kind of happened at the same time. We took off. We were at 500 or 600 accounts, and before you know it, we were at 1,200. We doubled in like 2 years. And that was a great time. That was my final few years over just the yearbook department before I moved up and Catherine moved into it. And then the next stage was, we couldn't find, for the life of us, we couldn't find a person to run that Heidelberg anymore, those Heidelberg machines. I couldn't find a printer. I probably shouldn't give this anecdote out, but, everybody that was a good printer in this part of the country that was left, that was young enough to know how to print on a Heidelberg press, they all learned how to print on a Heidelberg press in prison, because the state was using it to print state materials. So we did not have the best candidates coming in and running our presses and stuff. So we ripped those out, got rid of them. And then the last technological evolution, last huge jump for us several years ago was implementing the Canon ProStream and the Gen 8 Mark V line. Like, we do softback books like it's butter. It just flows through this plant. We went from being able to do 4,000 copies a day to doing 15 to 20 to 25,000 copies a day, depending upon how extensive our shifts were. And the quality was high end. And again, like I said, we no longer feared personalization. We made personalization even better, and we're looking into foil stamping and stuff like that right now. And we also released ourselves of our fears over perfect bounds and hardbacks. We knew that perfect bound and hardbacks were, especially the perfect bound starts to pop up more and more in middle schools and stuff, So when you see that, you can't fight the trends. And so we've shed ourselves of those fears, because we've gotten so good at binding and printing and everything, that we just kind of dove all in. So, and that's my life in a nutshell. There you
go. For those of you out there that are watching that don't know what sticky, what you had to do to make a yearbook before, take the photos, print the photos, die cut the photos, put them on a page, and then take a picture of that page to make one big photo and send it to the press.
We would litho burn. We'd have to litho
Wow.
burn those things.
That's
And it
right.
was,
So you have some nice graphics, the text. So yeah, that was a lot of work. Digital's helped out a ton there. So what we're going to do, I'm going to do a couple things for highlighting the yearbook side, Captura yearbooks, and then we're going to go do the Q&A. Hopefully we've got some questions there. Let's go talk about the integrated workflow for Captura yearbooks. And, all of it is there. You've got the ease of use, the scalability for the different users, drag and drop, the whole, the easy stuff. Personalization tools, we talked about that in depth. Captura yearbooks makes it very easy to get personalization in your cart and to get that down into the printer, especially through Captura Direct. It's just boom, you send it to the printer, we're good to go. We're seeing real-time order tracking within Captura yearbooks in the shopping cart. You can see how many orders are coming in. You can print out and get your reports squared away. You can add manual orders. And again, you're not having to leave the software. It's all in one spot. The Yearbook Visor has a dashboard for all of these things. And, what I'd like to do also is after this, let's make sure that you come out and get into the Captura side, do your Captura cast, watch those videos on the yearbook. And we just put up a little link right there where you can go through and see the latest stuff, what's coming up, some tutorials, all the new features, things like that, and make sure you keep coming back to that. Okay, let's go ahead and do our Q&A. What kind of questions do we have today? Okay, let's see. All right. Okay, boo-boo-boo. We've got some good comments here for sure. Roger pointed out the sooner you get a plan, the sooner you can implement, the sooner it can scale. Those are really good points. Let's see. I don't think that's pretty much really it. We don't have any questions. Last chance? Well, I think we're good. Well, Brendan, thank you for joining me today. It was huge. Again, we've got the Captura yearbooks book a demo now there. Make sure that you do that. But Brendan, thanks for coming out today and giving us your insight and the insight and experience, the evolution of where you're at and where you've come from. That was awesome. So
no, absolutely my pleasure, and I hope it helps people sell more books. Christian, we got a question.
Oh, we do have a question. Yeah, what is the cost for Captura yearbooks? That's a good question. Always the finance side of things. If you go ahead and book a demo now, we'll get all that pricing information in there for you. I know that's the typical answer. Anything else?
You do have to look at the pages and the copy counts and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for the software itself, there's a couple different routes for it, but we'll reach out to us and we'll get that information out to you. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thanks for joining us today, and y'all have a great day and see you next time. Bye.